Over a weekend where the biggest complaint for most Americans was losing an hour to daylight saving, Putin's assault on Ukraine has intensified, with Russia targeting more residential areas, including bombing an apartment building in Kyiv and in Mariupol, which has been leveled by Putin's forces. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians remain stranded without food, water, heat, or a way out. A few hundred people were able to flee safely today after days of attacks on refugee caravans. Nearly 3 million people have left Ukraine so far, although remarkably some, reportedly around 200,000, are now making their way back to Ukraine to stand with the millions who've stayed to protect their country. It's just the latest example of the awe-inspiring bravery we've seen from the Ukrainian people and those who are trying to help them. Among them is Brockton native Jason Tibbetts. He's a former U.S. Army medic who joins me now from Odesa, where he's been living and teaching English for the past 10 years. Jason, it's good to meet you. Thanks much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So it's late at night in Odesa, a strategic port city on the Black Sea. What's the situation there now?
At this time of night, everybody keeps their lights out. We have a curfew that starts at 10 p.m. And so we're locked in our buildings from 10 p.m. till 7 in the morning. During the daytime, there's a lot of fear in the city. There are messages every day, of course, that we're going to be attacked, and friends and well-wishers and people write, I heard on the news, I heard rumors. So there's a lot of fear. The city is mostly a ghost town, full of elderly people, children, and people with nowhere else to go, really, at this point in time.
Do you feel that fear yourself?
Not as much as they do. I see it in them, and to me, it's a little bit stressful to kind of deal with a lot of those messages that I get about kind of, worrying and the everyday, that we're kind of expecting it. But I don't feel a lot of the fear. I feel a lot of sympathy, I suppose, for the people that are here. I suppose I'll feel fear when the time actually comes, but at this point in time, no.
Which amazes me. I mean, beyond being, as you know, obviously, the mayor of Odesa said as recently as Friday that an invasion, an attack by the Russians was imminent. I'm sure you see the same images we do of
Sure.
women, pregnant women murdered at that hospital, children being killed. How do you wrap your head around that after being in this country for 10 years in a totally different world?
You can't wrap your head around it. It's absolutely impossible to look at those images and to see that woman being carried off, or families being shot, and just the evil that would commit such actions. It's impossible to do. It's just complete sadness that someone could do that, and sadness that a life could be extinguished, that a baby could die before it even has the chance to take a breath inside of its mother's belly. It should have been the proudest moment of her life, instead completely destroyed.
Yet despite the violence all around you and the violence that's supposedly coming to your city relatively soon, you've chosen to stay. Why?
Someone has to help. I was a medic, as you mentioned, in the military.
Yeah.
And I mean, that hardly qualifies me to be the best person to help out here or to do kind of the most useful things. But with so many people leaving and protecting their own family, there has to be someone who can, maybe lend a hand. And if I were to leave, I don't think that would be something that on my own conscience that I would be able to deal with.
How are you preparing? Are you preparing?
Yeah, of course.
What are you doing?
Well, first off, preparing in the sense of I've contacted the local military here, and I will, when and if an attack comes, they will contact me, tell me where to go, where I can work, where I can help out. And so I guess that's about it. And for as far as me, personally preparing. It's buying a lot of oatmeal, a lot of tuna, taping up the windows as you would in these situations, and being ready for kind of a long haul and doing what I can at that point in time. But I suppose that you can't really be prepared other than just as much as possible, stay calm, be ready, and when the time comes, act.
I'm sorry to stay on this same topic, but it's so, I mean, I can't get the heroism that I see and the kinds of things you say. You're going to go to bed in a little while. Do you not go to bed with trepidation that you're going to be awakened in the middle of the night by a flash or by the sound of a missile landing near you? Or do you just go to bed and get up tomorrow morning and do yet another day? How do you do this?
I know that a lot of people don't sleep at all. I know that they're up all night posting, they're waiting for that to happen. We know that the rockets do come at 4:20, 4 a.m. That's the most common time for Russia to launch the attack on cities. But, you know, I suppose for me personally, no, I listen to some, you know, calming music and try to kind of get away from social media for about 30 minutes or so before bed, because what can you really do? I mean, running around in circles and being fearful of something that might happen tomorrow or might not happen tomorrow isn't going to do me any good or the people I try to help any good. So yeah, I do sleep. I wake up a lot throughout the night. I wake up about 2 or 3 times, but I'm able to go back to sleep at least.
You know, you got to know Ukrainian people up close for the 10 years you've been there. Could you have foreseen an old man kneeling down in front of a Russian tank, or a retired university professor, a woman in this case, building matter-of-factly Molotov cocktails in her backyard to distribute to her neighbors? Could you have imagined this kind of heroism?
No, absolutely not. I think that I will tell you that a lot of people, when I first came to the country, were supportive of Russia. They would look back on the Soviet Union and as people, you know, might do when they get to older years, kind of that, you know, the past was better. And certainly there was a lot of positive feeling, even, you know, even people that I personally know a few weeks ago had positive feelings towards Russia. But all of that positive feeling is gone. There is none of that now. There is just, you know, you are not going to take our land. What you have done is just pure evil. And the people that might have liked or glorified the Soviet Union, or might have even liked Vladimir Putin and thought he was somehow a better leader, no. And the country and the people have just really unified. And I am so surprised, so shocked, and so proud of how the Ukrainian people have stood up to an army that is, you know, so much bigger, so much stronger, but certainly not that well organized.
As I said, you're a Brockton kid. Do you think your government, the United States government, is doing enough to help the Ukrainian people?
No, I absolutely do not.
What should it do?
I think that they need to block the skies. I think that that's what Ukraine continues to ask. I understand. Personally, I feel that Biden's comments about World War III are creating a lot of fear that doesn't need to be created. I don't think that that's the situation with Russia. If we look back at what Russia did with Georgia, and when Russia brought the tanks to Georgia, and if you look at Saakashvili, who was then the president of Georgia, and his comments and what he said at the time, it was leaked that the United States was going to send military to Georgia, and Cheney, they were going to launch cruise missiles. And Russia stopped at that point in time within 40 minutes of that information being leaked. So what Vladimir Putin is saying and the threats that he's making, they're completely hollow. They're not real. He's not a madman, but he knows if he makes those threats, we will back down. And that's unfortunately currently the situation. And at what point are we going to step in? At what point are we going to help? Like you mentioned, 80 children have now been killed in 16 days. You know, like you said, pregnant women, families being massacred. A country that has helped us. We we signed the Budapest Accord with them. In the 1990s, Ukraine had the third most nuclear weapons in the world. And we signed an agreement with them that we would protect their sovereignty if something happened. And where does that even, what does our word even matter as a country if we don't keep the agreements we make? And how can we tell other countries to demilitarize or take their nukes away if, we don't keep, the things that we promise? And I was certainly no fan of Bush, by the way, no fan of him by any stretch of the imagination, but we need to protect Ukraine's skies and stand up to Vladimir Putin, because if we do not, and he is able to take Ukraine, I don't know what we think the result is going to be, in all honesty. That Mr. Putin's going to go back to Russia with a lost war. There's only, three results here. He's either going to, if there's a chance that he could potentially lose, he'll turn the country to ash, in my opinion, before he goes back to his own country with a loss. And if he's able to take this country, it's going to be a stronger Russia that's then going to turn their eye towards Moldova and the other non-NATO countries. If we say, NATO is somehow that line, and he'll continue to grow. And right now, we have a chance where Russians do not support Mr. Putin. They're very negative against him. And we really, if we stand up to him now, I think we'll save a lot of lives and prevent a lot of problems later.
Jason, best to you and your Ukrainian neighbors. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, too. And greetings from Odesa. Dakoyu. That's how you say thank you in Ukrainian.
Thank you to you, too. Thanks, Jason.